So yeah, I think it's official. I think that's our opening music. Kind of feels like ballpark, right? Like
yeah, summer vibe, man. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go. Dan Viens, Michael Thompson here with you. Episode 2 of Mariners Forever. Weekly shows, unless things come along that are newsworthy, or just we have the time, or there's something compelling enough to talk about, which, I don't know, spoiler alert, there may be a bonus episode coming this weekend for you as well. Here's what we're going to do. Each week, we'll begin by looking back over the week that was, and then looking ahead a little bit to the week that's coming, and then we'll deal with major issues that we think are impacting this roster. Today, we're going to ask the question, is it time to call up Cole Young and get him installed in there at second base, maybe give some juice to this lineup? If not, why not? And then we're going to talk about the draft for the first time. That's Michael's wheelhouse and one of his passions. We're going to call this 3 for number 3. 3 prospects that he likes as options at number 3. And then we'll talk about some of the general ideas about maybe which way to use that pick. So, Michael, let's start here. The Seahawks, the Mariners. It's going to happen.
It's all good.
It's going to happen quite a bit. So they go. They lose 3 out of 4 in Houston, and then they split the first 2 games against the Washington Nationals since our last recording. Got off to a promising start when they came back to the homestand, which has kind of been a bugaboo for them, like that first game coming off the road, especially sort of a flat, lackluster road trip. I mean, even in Chicago, they just couldn't get things going offensively. They started off promising, 8 strong innings from rookie Logan Evans, again, as he puts 3 back-to-back-to-back starts together now and seems to get better in each one. And then he's rewarded by getting sent back down to the minors. We'll talk about that in just a second. But just your general impressions of the week that was for your Seattle Mariners, who are still, as we record this, in first place, albeit just by a single game.
Yeah, no, definitely you see how quickly things can change. What were we, 3.5 up on Houston after we won game 2? And you lose essentially 2 heartbreaking losses, a game that you just gave away. Brian Wu makes 1 mistake, costs the team 2 runs, and then he looks like the on the fringe Cy Young candidate that he has looked like this year, and he's looking like an all-star caliber pitcher. But the bats couldn't do anything. Lose that 2-1, and then you have a back and forth. Really felt on Sunday like a playoff game because you want to have that advantage over Houston. Winner of that game would have had the 4-3 advantage through the first 7 out of 13 games this year. Felt like it was a playoff game until we didn't put Munoz in the 9th with what they had coming up on the lineup. Made me a little curious, and Christian Walker made us pay. He hit the walk-off on the stupid Crawford boxes. Probably the stupidest thing in baseball, but whatever. We don't need to talk about that too much. It's so stupid. And then you come home and we're still 1.5 games ahead. Well, the Astros haven't stopped. They've kept winning. They've kind of taken it to the Sacramento Oakland Athletics so far. And then you come home, you have a brilliant pitching outing. You continue to pitch really, really well. And then you just see an absolute avalanche. You see what happens when your star players show up. First 2 or 3 innings, Cal Raleigh and Julio just put the game away. 2-run home run, back-to-back, and then Cal comes back up there again. And before you know it, this game, it was 4-1, and it felt like it was already over, and it was. And then last night was probably one of the worst games they've played all year. Definitely looked like a game where they didn't bring their A game, and they didn't really respect the Nationals as much as they probably should have. And that came back to bite them. They had their worst loss of the year, a 9-0 shutout loss, and another kind of not the outing we were all hoping for from George Kirby. So that makes tonight really interesting, going against the Nationals, against Mackenzie Gore, who's been having a great year. And as we speak right now, it's 0-0 in the 3rd. And this is a game you want to win. You want to win series, and you have to win series at home.
Yeah, Emerson Hancock going again tonight. He's been pitching well. Let's go back to that Astros series for a moment before we talk about George Kirby's start last night. I thought the Brian Wu outing was really impressive, especially in light of the fact that it sure appeared that his velocity was down, not what we're used to seeing from him. And for a guy who relies so much on his fastball and the value he gets from it, I think that was a really cool sign of a guy that, just from a pitchability standpoint, might just be maturing a little bit before our eyes. And then you get into the finale on Sunday, and you mentioned it. it sure seemed like Dan Wilson was doing what the Mariners used to do. And I think back to Edwin Diaz and the last big year he had here before he was traded to the Mets, where they really were resistant to sort of the new wave thinking in baseball about how to use your best bullpen arms and being willing to use them in the 7th or 8th innings if the middle of the order is coming up in a close game, or in the 9th inning of a game that's tied and might head into extras if the middle of the order is there. Get your best guy out there against their best bats. The thinking being, if it does go to extra innings, then you can go to some of your other bullpen arms against the bottom part of the order. That changed about 3-4 years ago. We saw a real shift as the Mariners kind of leaned more into analytics, and we didn't know at the time if that was a Scott Service shift or if that was something that was coming from upstairs. Like, here's how you're going to manage this now. But it sure would seem like that the manager is getting the autonomy on the field to make those decisions, because we're seeing a whole different method of using the bullpen here under Dan Wilson, aren't we?
Yeah, for sure. Like we talked about last week on our show, it feels like Dan Wilson is the captain of this ship. It really does feel that way. Whereas times, and I appreciate Scott Service. I thought he was a fine manager. Was he perfect? No. But I think we all kind of felt like he was a co-captain, if that makes sense, with Jerry or whatever was going on behind the scenes. Like, I don't know if there was ever really a time. He always felt like dad, but not like the head coach, like he was fully in charge. Whereas Dan, it feels like he's in charge. These are not decisions that we have seen normally from Jerry and Justin and Scott Service in the previous run. And so it was odd. I feel like that's a decision that normally you would see Munoz come in there. And for not to, I don't know. It was weird. I don't know if you had an opinion on it. I know, who was in there in the 9th?
Leguimina.
Who's been fantastic, right? He's been fantastic. And maybe the numbers say, hey, we can get by one more inning. Let's get to extra innings, get that runner on second. Maybe they just thought we can get by 3 more outs, and it came back and it got him with again, that Crawford box.
Yeah, and that came on the tails of, a decent 8th inning for Matt Brash, who still, it's nice to have him back, but it seems like he's certainly not the Matt Brash that he was pre-injury, not able to go back-to-back nights, having to rely more on that slider, not because he's not pumping up he's not hitting 99, 100, 101 on the radar gun like he was before. Still effective. And again, similar to what we just talked about with Brian Wu, that's cool. That's a good thing. That's potentially a positive sign.
Definitely the trade-off that comes with such a quick recovery, I think, is one of the things where it's like, hey, you want him back much sooner than we probably all thought. I think all of us thought he would be here after the All-Star game if we were lucky. And he's here now in the middle of May, helping us in divisional games that might affect the playoffs. It's just you're not going to have the same Matt Brash that we saw embarrassing Shohei Ohtani 2 years ago. Right now,
it's kind of counterintuitive. You'd think coming off Tommy John or brace surgery in that elbow in basically 12 months, where usually the recovery timeline is more like 18. You would think the braking stuff would be slower to come back and be as sharp than the velocity, but it seems to be the other way around. So another check in the box of modern medicine, right?
Absolutely.
Still, they go 2-4 since we last did a show, and there's a lot of like sky is falling sentiment out there. But I wonder, and I went back and looked, and the easy thing to do would be to look at the lineup as we talked about last week. And I think I made a comment at one point that like sometimes the bottom third of the order, is barely even looks major league quality. But then heading into the Houston series, that bottom third of the order was among the better groups in the American League at getting on base, at least, certainly. And so, let's address that sky is falling kind of mentality, because when I looked at the numbers, like, it wasn't that terrible, right? Over the last 7 days, their combined slash line, 253, 321, 400. Their OPS is right smack in the middle of the American League, sitting at 7th over the last week. Meanwhile, the Astros lead the league in every single category. Strikeouts, not an issue. They're 12th out of 15 teams in the American League over the last week striking out. Is it bad luck? Not really. They're BABIP, right? Batting average on balls in play, 306, right smack in the middle, 7th in the American League. So maybe if we're going to be optimistic, which we are going to try to do as a rule on this show, that's kind of, I think, both of our natures, could it be more so that they just ran into a red-hot Houston Astros team who suddenly aren't as far away in the rearview mirror as they were a week ago?
Yeah, unfortunately, I think this is as much of a testament as where the Astros are currently at playing wise and where we're currently playing wise. Like, we came in there for a 4-game series with a 3.5 game lead. You can't tell me the Houston Astros, a dynasty that has been around for the last almost decade now as a dominant baseball team, recognizes, yeah, it's the end of May. We've been in worse last year, but this is a big series where championship teams, playoff division winning teams, they hold home court, right? And we don't talk about home field advantage that much in baseball, but like a place like Houston does have that home field advantage. I personally believe, and they wanted to take care of it. And you ran into Valdez, who threw the ball really well. That offense just comes through at the right moments, and just something about that Crawford box, man. Isaac Paredes, Christian Walker has not had the start that I think even Houston fans were hoping for, but Isaac Paredes pretty much has the all-star third base nod locked down already because he just is just smacking the Crawford boxes like it's nothing. You
saw his home run spray chart, right?
Oh, it's ridiculous.
Literally every home run he's hit, he's never hit an opposite field home run. Yeah. He's built for that ballpark.
No, he is going to sign an extension there probably, and he's going to end up being a Hall of Famer because he's just going to pummel the Crawford box, which is good for him. Yeah. Man, and it goes back again where it's just like, I know the Mariners, we had talked a lot last offseason about acquiring him, and I still think that was the right decision to not. I don't think his style would have really worked with what we had for half the season, the way our weather is and stuff. Yeah. Houston, worst place for him to go. For a Mariners perspective. But anyways, the Astros, they are getting 5 guys right now that are smacking the crap out of the baseball.
Yeah.
Altuve is definitely cooled down a little bit, but he's still being productive. Paredes looks like an all-star. Pena looks like he's back to his World Series 2022 numbers. And on his defense, I believe he's one of the top WAR guys in baseball already. And their bullpen has been pretty good, and their rotation has been good enough even through the injuries that they're dealing with. And so they're doing all of this without Yordan Alvarez. So I think this is definitely like it's not code red, but it's definitely like code yellow, code orange. Keep an eye on Houston, because if they get Yordan back and he is finally healthy, now that's like a 6th consistent bat on that lineup. And now they're never going to be what they were 5 or 6 years ago, but they're still a team capable of winning 95 games and can get to a World Series. Whereas Seattle right now, it could be, the bottom third of our lineup is starting to show some signs. Or the stats don't exactly show it. It just looks like we went into a hot team that's playing better baseball than us right now. Then you come home and you're playing a Nationals team that's probably a little bit better than people think. But this is still, again, we're talking about a game where you dominate game 1, but you put an egg on the scoreboard yesterday. You haven't scored yet today. You're looking at 13 scoreless innings almost right now. Like, little concerning. And it just kind of goes back to a fear. I know you and I have talked about this before. The 2000s, after the Mariners had their good run with Lou Piniella up until 2022, we didn't have a whole lot of offensive stars, and we had no depth, and it was awful to watch. Yeah. You had the Cano and Nelson Cruz and Kyle Seager years, but that was 3 guys, and if they weren't on, we weren't winning. And that's kind of where we are now, where I think our pitching and our stability is better than it has ever been. You have Julio, you have Cal Raleigh. Those are 2 guys that are playing really well. I believe Julio's playing really well. Cal Raleigh is arguably the best player in baseball right now so far. You need more. And so you have those nights where they can carry, but you're just a couple bats short. And maybe that's internal additions. Maybe that's guys just getting hot, because it should be okay when you play the White Sox. It should be okay when you play the Nationals, the Angels. It's not going to be okay when you play the Houston Astros, which is what this is all about.
Yeah, and until then, because I think we both agree, we touched on it last week a little bit. It's way too soon to start thinking about outside acquisitions. Jerry Dipoto came out, as he does every year at this time, a couple days ago, said he thinks it's going to be a seller's market. As a result, I don't think anyone's going to be too quick to move any significant bats until we get closer to the deadline. And we'll talk about one potential internal option here in a moment. But until then, the pitching has to hold it together. And this starting pitching staff, as much as we have loved the job that Logan Evans and Emerson Hancock have done in kind of holding things together, ideally they got to get their horses back.
Yep.
George Kirby now 2 starts into coming off the injured list. His ERA sits at 11.42 after these 2 starts. Last night, 5 innings pitched, 6 earned runs. He walked 2. That's unlike him. Only struck out 4. Gave up 3 home runs, including back-to-back home runs. So that ERA sits at 11.42. He's never recorded an ERA of over 3.5 in his career. And I looked at, you look at the Baseball Savant page. It surprised me. I was expecting to see maybe the velocity's down. It's not. It's exactly the same as it was a year ago, averaging about 96 miles per hour. That's 80th percentile. His chase and his whiff percentage is slightly down, but we're splitting hairs. Not really significant enough to make a difference.
It's also very early, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, the extension is a little shorter, and I wonder there if that's just him not being fully healthy. Maybe he's just not cutting it loose, but then the velocity would seem to kind of offset that. But the barrel and the hard hit rates are way down or up, I guess, depending on which way you want to look at it. Guys are just getting to his pitches and hitting it harder. Is this just a case of a guy that's not sharp, didn't have a spring training? He's just coming back. Maybe he was rushed back, should have gone on a longer rehab assignment. Or is there bigger cause for concern where you're concerned?
I would say I'm not concerned. And the reason why I'd say that is this is essentially his 5th rehab outing, right? He had 3 rehab outings in Tacoma, and then he pitched last week and then this week or yesterday. And what I see right now is just, again, still him getting comfortable. And that's part of the game. Like, you just have to get through this because you know what's at the end of the road if he is healthy, which we have all intention, we believe he is healthy. But in the meantime, like you mentioned, that extension is a very interesting thing because I think extension plays a big role in kind of finishing your off-speed pitches. And he left some of the worst, I think he threw some of his worst off-speed pitches that I've ever seen him throw in his 3+ seasons with the Seattle Mariners.
And that's
yeah. Yeah, what was it, 435-foot bomb that he gave up that I believe was his last at bat. 85-mile-an-hour off-speed pitch that he literally just left in the middle of the plate, right? And so what I've seen in his 2 starts is he does not have a command of his fastball to the level that we are used to seeing with George Kirby. Okay, George Kirby's accuracy is like no joke. It's in the realm. It's within the zip code of the great Maddox, like the highest. And there's a lot of numbers to back that up. And when he is a little bit more mortal with his command, he still has great stuff, but the command is what makes him so deadly. And right now, it's very clear. You go back and watch the highlights of the game, or you go watch the full game. He is having a hard time pitching inside to left-handed hitters. And he's a right-handed pitcher. He's getting a lot of left-handed hitters. The Nats threw a lot of left-handed bats at him yesterday, and he could not land that inside pitch, which the big part of him is him going with that 2-seam inside, looks like it's a ball, and it just paints the corner. You always see the batters kind of put their hands together, and the refs or the umps like, that's a strike. Yep. Or that sets him up to then go, it looks like it's middle, and at the last second, it ends up being a couple inches outside of the zone, but they're flailing away at it, and you get this weak contact. That becomes so hard to hit and make contact with when he's throwing his off-speed pitches for strikes. And I don't know if it is the extension, but his off-speed strike percentage is the lowest it's been in his 3 years. And I believe that's just 2 outings. Again, I think it just has to do with him getting ramped up. But when he can't throw a strike, it's very clear what you're going to see. And you saw it yesterday. When he threw his fastballs, all of his fastballs that got, hits, a lot of it was bloops going the other way, which actually led to a couple runs because of defensive errors, which, again, it's just the lack of focus in a game that's starting to get away so early. But when he can't land the off-speed pitch, then they're just going to fight those off until they get an off-speed pitch, and they hammered it yesterday. And you saw it. Josh Bell knew he wasn't going to throw an off-speed pitch because the last off-speed pitch he threw was right down the middle, and the guy blasted it. So what does Josh Bell do? He just sits and waits for that fastball going away, and he just goes oppo taco and smacks it into the bullpen. And so this is, again, just things that you would normally see happen in spring training in Peoria. And right now we're seeing it, unfortunately, in May in the middle of an early division race, if that's even what you want to look at it as. I believe he is going to be okay. His next start is going to be against the Baltimore Orioles, a very desperate team and a team that he has owned. He has thrown some of his best games. I can't remember if that was Felix Hernandez night when he went 9 innings of shutout ball. We lost 1-0 in the 10th or the 11th. Probably the best we've seen him other than his postseason appearance against the Astros. We need to see George Kirby. This is the third start. I think you and I talked about this. This is when we need to start to see him tone these things down, get his extension right, land those off-speed pitches, because then it makes the fastball that has so much movement so hard to pay attention to know what's coming.
Yeah, and it sure seems like he feels good after his starts. He doesn't seem, there don't seem to be any lingering effects. As long as he feels good, I'm going to be pro George Kirby. He'll get it straightened out, and when he does, he'll certainly be an asset. Meanwhile, Logan Gilbert tonight on a rehab assignment, pitching against Salt Lake in Tacoma. That's good news. He's set to go 3 innings tonight. We'll see. Hopefully he comes out of that clean. And then there's Bryce Miller. And this one, man, I'm going to have – someone's going to need to make it make sense to me. He came out with the odd sort of – he was interviewed the other day, and he sort of let it slip that there's something in there. There's something in there, but they can't remove it right now, or he'd have to miss the rest of the season. So they're going to save it until the end of the season. Justin Hollander gave that some more clarity and said what we all were thinking when Miller said that. There's a bone spur in there, or multiple bone spurs, but they don't think it's going to impact his pitching, which then begs the question, then why did they have to pull him and put him on the injured list in the first place? So then without sending him down for maybe a start or two as a rehab assignment, just a couple of side bullpens, and he did pitch a sim game last week as well, same in Houston, same day that Logan Gilbert did. They're putting him right back in the starting lineup. He's going to pitch Saturday, I believe, against the Minnesota Twins. Gets our old friend Ty France coming back to Seattle. I don't know how to feel about this one, especially given the fact that he takes the spot in the rotation where Logan Evans was pitching so well, coming off his best start of his career. Now he's back in Tacoma. Miller's back in the lineup.
Yeah, and I was interested to hear what Dan was going to say when he got asked about it. And it was just very much like, I'm not going to tell you why. It's just a decision that we made with Logan. And that might just have to do with Logan's got options. We know we can bring him up whenever. We feel good about where we're at right now. And so we're going to have him continue to throw while we see what we have with Miller and Gilbert. Because what Logan has done so far has been fantastic. Logan Evans has done so far has been fantastic. No doubt. Yeah. Over the course of the season, if everyone's healthy, you expect, Gilbert's your ace. You get him back. He may have the ramp up that we're seeing with Kirby as well. We just have to be patient and just push through that, because you get these guys back. You get Gilbert, you get Kirby. Hopefully we get Bryce Miller back healthy. Like, that changes so much about your team. It changes so much about your bullpen, your rotation, and now allows you just this depth that we've talked about with Emerson Hancock and Logan Evans, which Hancock's throwing well today as well. Like, there is an embarrassment of riches, but you can't capitalize on that embarrassment of riches in terms of making a trade if that's something they want to do. If there's a bone spur, or if Kirby continues to struggle, or if Gilbert feels something, knock on wood, like, the expectation is all these guys are going to be good, and we have 7 legit MLB starters. That's kind of the hope. The reality is that never happens. That's very, very rare to happen. And I love Bryce Miller because he's kind of a wild card. He's a wild spirit. He just kind of tells it like it is. The old Texan that he kind of presents as himself, and you're going to get some honesty in that stuff. And I don't think Justin and Jerry probably loved how honest he was, and it kind of made them have to talk about it. But it definitely is that cause for concern of like, okay, well, even if you come back, how well are you going to be able to throw this whole season? And so I'm very nervous about Miller, because I think it makes me less inclined to want to make a type of deal sending a pitcher away, because again, at the same time you're seeing what Evans is doing, it's just this weird, you're kind of caught in between. You kind of almost have to ride it out and hope that everyone gets healthy, if that makes sense.
Well, and it does, because of that, I think it does put them in an advantageous situation where maybe their mindset is like, look, we could just shut him down, but we're trying to win. We're trying to win this season. It's important that we win in what you and I have both referred to as kind of a bridge season before a bunch of these prospects are ready on the offensive side. And so they do have the luxury, perhaps, and this is me again, trying to talk myself into this idea, right, of taking a shot and seeing if Miller can push through this and be effective while he's doing it. if he's a crap show when every fifth day when he goes out there, but he's able to pitch, then that doesn't help anybody either. But because Logan's on his way back, Logan Gilbert, presumably, if tonight goes well, they've even left open the possibility, Justin Hollander did, that he could just have the one outing if tonight goes well and he feels good out of it, or there may be additional depending on how he feels. You've got Emerson Hancock, who certainly looks like now the velocity's up. He's turned a corner. You touched on it last week. This is the guy that we saw at Georgia that was worthy of being a top 10 pick overall. His performance seems sustainable enough now that you take a shot with Miller. If it doesn't work out and Logan Gilbert comes back healthy, Kirby gets it straightened out, Hancock is your fifth guy, and then you could go ahead, if you have to shut Miller down, have the surgery now, get them removed, and then he'll be fully healthy for next spring training. That's the only scenario from an organizational standpoint that makes sense to me at this point.
Yeah, and like you said, it is an embarrassment of riches, and you're kind of in that same realm as maybe like the Dodgers even, where, sure, Miller, we'll give you a month to get right, but if not, we've got another horse waiting to come on up. Sure, Gilbert, we'll give you probably 3 or 4 more starts, but if not, I don't think they would send him back down to the IL unless there's something else wrong. Like, it's early, but it's also that thing of like, cool, if it's not working, then we might have to do something, and we're not screwed. Like, we don't have to call up, your 4th starter in AAA. Do you remember Blake Bevan? Like, we don't have a Blake Bevan kind of guy that, oh crap, I hope we score 8 runs that day because he's going to give up 6 or 7. Yeah. It is an embarrassment of riches. I want everyone to be healthy because I want all options on the table for the middle of July. Whether that's we're going with what we have, or we're going, and you have, 50 games until then, give or take. Like, let's figure out what we have by getting everyone healthy, and hopefully we get a better view of the picture by then.
Where's Tommy Malone when you need him? Or who's the French?
Wade LeBlanc.
Yeah, exactly. And my one concern, and I wish I had this on tape somewhere. I know I've tweeted it, but probably a year or two ago, I can't help but think, and I don't know if you have a thought on this, or we could just kind of let this linger and move on to the next subject. Both of those guys started throwing a splitter in the last year or two. And I just, I remember, when the splitter it used to be called a fork ball, and then it became really in vogue among relief pitchers, and then some starters started to use it. And I remember it used to be attributed to elbow injuries. And I just can't help but think, Logan Gilbert, forearm tightness, Bryce Miller, bone spurs. Let's hope that's not it. First time Logan Gilbert's ever been on the injured list. So, we'll trust that if he feels good and he still thinks he can throw that pitch. Good news is he's got like 7 other pitches. If he has to scrap the splitter, he can still probably be relatively effective. Let's talk about the offense, because the infield continues to be an issue. Ben Williamson, after, having a decent start, albeit just one full of singles in the box score, no power to speak of, but we knew that. We knew that when they called him up.
Yeah.
Playing third base nearly every day. Jorge Polanco still not able to play third base, DH only, can't even face right-handers. That's a bummer. The hottest hitter in baseball probably for the first 30 to 40 games of the season. And then kind of the rotating group at second base, although you're getting, great contributions on Tuesday night from Dylan Moore. Cole Young, we talked about him last week. He's remained just as hot. Now we're almost through an entire month of May. You want to talk about sample size. Now we're talking about not just a week or two, but an entire month of May. And in the month of May, his slash line, 371, 455, 691, a 1200 OPS.
In fuego.
10 doubles, 3 triples, 5 homers. We're seeing some pop out of him. 12 walks to 8 strikeouts. How much more do we need to see? You talked about service time last week.
Yep.
I verified it. They only had to wait 16 days. Service time's not an issue. He will not accrue a season this year towards his free agency if they call him up now. It's beyond the realm of comprehension that they would call up Ben Williamson a month ago when he only had 60 plate appearances, I believe, at the time. He was called up with an OPS of half of what Cole Young had, about 600, after only 60 plate appearances. Young is doing this now. He has 237 plate appearances to this point. What more is it going to take? Why isn't he in the lineup?
Did you see him yesterday? 5 for 5.
Yeah, with another home run.
Like, and there's another prospect that we're going to talk about here in a little bit, but he is one of the 2 hottest best hitters right now, along with Caglione over at Kansas City. So I guess 2 of the 3 hottest guys right now in all of minor league baseball. Like, I can't go on prospect Twitter at all without seeing Cole Young just absolutely smashing the ball. Joe Doyle was on Bump and Stacy today, and they asked him about Cole Young. When is he coming up? What have you seen from him? Joe's great. Give him a follow if you haven't already. He's got great content on draft stuff, and I don't know if he'll say it out loud, but he's definitely a Mariners fan, and a little biased there. And so he talked about just the way that Cole Young has transformed his body in the last year, and how he's just gotten more aggressive, and there's definitely more speed and power in his swing. His hard hit percentage right now in AAA is 44%. That's the same as Julio Rodriguez. Obviously, as Joe said, there's a difference between pro and minor league pitching, but like, those are all the signs you want to see. He's not just hitting the ball. He's not just seeing it, balls and strikes, but he is pummeling it every single time that he goes up to bat. Like, when you're 5 for 5 after the month that you have had, the message has been sent. So here's my hot take. I think tomorrow he will be called up for the weekend series against the Twins. That is my my Charles Barkley probably wrong prediction, right? I'm calling right now. Cole Young, I think, will be Friday night. It's a business weekend series, big series against the Twins. I think he gets called up. If he doesn't, I think there's a chance we might not see him until the next homestand, which makes no sense to me. I do not understand it. Like, we've talked about this. The season is young, but it's not that young. You're already a third of the way through, right? And you've had a decent lead against the Astros that has whittled down. There's a chance you get past tonight. Like, I'm not asking Cole Young to come in and save the season. Like, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about coming in because he is ready. He looks ready. He's been ready for a month. Everything you want to see, it's time, right? And he can come in and play second base right away and be one of the not worst second basemen in baseball, right? And I don't know if I assume he would play second base if he came up. I don't assume he'd play third base, but like, I can't verify that. But the bat is what you need right now. You need that bat in this lineup, and let's see if he can add a spark. Like, the teams that you're facing right now, the Twins are a good team, but like, there's nothing really in the rotation coming up in the next month or the next couple of weeks that look super daunting, right? Twins, Orioles, and then I believe you go to the Angels. Like, that's a great 9-game little leadoff for him to see what he can do against those hitters. He's not going to hit against lefties, most likely. That's what you have Dylan Moore for. You can immediately turn second base into a potentially dynamic position for the Mariners with Cole Young against righties and Dylan Moore against lefties. I don't understand it. I don't know if you have a take on it. I just have this weird feeling that tomorrow night, Friday night, weekend series at home, I could see it tomorrow morning. We hear the announcement, Cole Young's coming up to the show, and we're all going crazy about it all day tomorrow.
I hope you're right. I just thought it would have made all the sense in the world coming home off of the long road trip, and as hot as he's been, to just have him join the team on Tuesday. The Rainiers are in Tacoma. It's a 45-minute drive. Like, they send a car for him. And I would leave Williamson at third base. I mean, actually, in the last 7 games, he's kind of turned it up a little bit. He's hitting 273 in the last week. So a decent, solid week for him. He's not hurting himself down there at the bottom of the lineup, albeit, again, it's still with no power. And that defense, that's one of those things keeping this team in ball games. They are one of the top defensive teams in the league this year. I don't see why you do it. The idea that, well, you could damage his development. I think everything we've heard about Cole Young and his makeup and his approach to the game, I don't think that's an issue. And if he goes 0 for 17, like Jared Kelenic did when he was called up initially, send him back down. Fine, right? It can't be worse than it was. And I actually think that this could be one of those situations where he's up to stay. I think people are there's PTSD still here, right? Because of Dustin Ackley and how he was supposed to be a can't miss. He's going to win batting titles. Roared through the minor leagues. They probably pushed him too quickly. So maybe there's some fear of that. I think the organization knows this kid pretty well. And I keep going back to like, why Ben Williamson, but not Cole Young? That's just where it doesn't make sense for me at all.
No, you're absolutely right. And I know that was talked about when we drafted Ben Williamson, but is his ability to move up pretty quickly. But he's also like, I'm not saying Colt Emerson is coming down the pipe anytime soon, but there's a chance Colt Emerson might move to third base. There's a chance in this draft here in a month that you get somebody that will be ready within a calendar year to play third base. Like, so you never know, but like, it's also just, I don't know. It's just, you bring up Kellenic. We're in such a better spot as a franchise, as an organization than we were when we called up Kellenic. And even when we had Ackley, there was and Mike Zunino, we talked about him last week. Those three guys are examples of an era of just bad. The Kellenic one may never have worked, but just a little bit of reeking of desperation, if that makes sense. All three of those guys were asked to come in and be Julio Rodriguez right away. And Cole Young is not going to be Julio Rodriguez right away. We just need him to come in and be a serviceable second baseman. If he can be even close to a league average bat with his defense and his mobility, his versatility that he kind of has in case anything does, knock on wood, happen to JP Crawford. Like, it's also just a spark, right? When you get a guy that gets called up and brings some energy, brings some life, brings some youth to the lineup, like all that is there. Ben Williamson did that when he came up. Clutch hitting, good defense. And like you said, it's been a little bit, the league's adjusting to Ben. Ben has to adjust as well. The same thing's going to happen to Cole Young. I just think getting these guys up here and giving them a shot is much better than and then having a Miles Mastrobuoni or a Leo Rivas be as a bench utility guy. I think it's time is kind of where I'm at.
And lost in all of the barrage of home runs against George Kirby last night, the major league debut, well, not the major league debut, but the Mariners debut of Jackson Kowar, pitches a scoreless inning in relief last night, has his first strikeout as a Mariner. Meanwhile, Jared Kelenic is in AAA in the Braves organization at the moment. So maybe we end up winning that trade after all, right?
Yeah, shout out to Ty Dane Gonzalez over at Locked On Mariners I think he tweeted that out. Mariners clearly won the Jared Kelenic trade.
Hey, as of today, as we sit here today, right? We're going to finish up with this. You mentioned the draft, and this is something we're going to get a lot deeper into as we get closer to the draft. We'll do some mocks. The Mariners have an extra pick. They've got the biggest bonus pool in this draft. Really looking forward to that during All-Star Weekend. But we wanted to give a little bit of a preview of where they sit as information starts to kind of get firmed up and you start to hear through some of the better baseball writers out there and their sources of which way the Mariners might be leading. But the Mariners get lucky with the draft lottery this year. They have the third pick in the draft. That has huge value to it. So I tasked you with picking your three for number 3 to name 3 prospects that you like out of this pool so far that you would be really excited about the Mariners taking at number 3.
Yeah, I think in my personal opinion, and maybe I'm wrong, I think the most important thing that can happen this year, unless the Mariners win a division and, go to the World Series or do something magical like that, right? That'd be freaking amazing. The most important thing for this franchise is them getting the third pick in the draft in what is a star-studded draft class at the top. Like at number 3, it is very hard to mess. Now, prospects, you never know what can happen, right? Dustin Ackley, great example. Jared Kelenic, great example. But you have a chance to go get a superstar level pitcher or a superstar level hitter at number 3. And that's not just a superstar. It's someone that will probably be here by next August, right? Like there's pretty much one prospect that might take a little bit of time, but also they have the most bloodline, coming up. And so that is my number 1 prospect. My number 1, if I had the number 1 pick in the draft, I'm taking Ethan Holiday, right? Son of Matt Holliday, brother of Jackson Holliday, number 1 pick for the Baltimore Orioles. He had a very not great start to his career in Baltimore on a great team. And as he has come back, he's played really well. Probably hasn't looked like the number 1 pick just yet. But he and his dad have both mentioned that Ethan is probably more of the better prospect overall, which is saying a lot, right? Jackson is definitely speed, versatility, can just do a lot. Ethan is definitely more of like, I'm going to be a third baseman or a corner outfielder, and I'm going to hit 35 home runs by like year 2. And that's who I am. I might strike out a bit, but he is very much Matt Holliday. The question is, does he have the same bat to ball skills that Matt Holliday had, where Matt was just a real pain in the ass to strike out? And Matt never hit exactly 50 bombs, but you could just pencil him in for 30 bombs. And also just was a great character, great leader, and just a great player. Probably not going to be a Hall of Famer, but is in that realm. Yeah. And so you don't want to compare Ethan to his dad, But if I told you, hey, would you like to draft Matt Holliday? I can tell you you're going to get Matt Holliday with the first pick in the MLB draft. Everyone would say, absolutely, yes. Because what could be just as dangerous on the negative side as it is in the positive side. So you give me a borderline Hall of Fame level player that's a championship ball player. I like Ethan Holliday. I don't know if you've seen any highlights of him, but definitely looks a lot bigger than Jackson.
Yeah, 6'4", 210. You can really visualize.
At 18 years old, right?
I just, who knows what the White Sox are going to do at number one? Like their track record of making decisions.
Nationals.
The Nationals are. Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking ahead to. I was looking at some website.
Oh, you're good.
The 2026 MLB Draft Lottery Simulator. Why do I want to see that? And then who has the second pick?
The Angels do.
I'm looking at the wrong list. Okay. I was looking at a list that had Baltimore number 2, which it didn't make any sense. Of course they would take Ethan. We're hearing, though, as of the last couple of days, a couple of reports out there. I think Kylie McDaniel for ESPN, who does such a great job writing for them, saying that it sounds like college bat or arm, though, for the Mariners, and leaning arm, which would make sense given the makeup of their prospect pool and the better guys, which we're going to talk about in another episode coming up shortly, about some of their top prospects. Keith Law just came out with his updated midseason. 50, and the Mariners are well represented. So given the fact that they are so hitter heavy, and that outside of the guys we've talked about, Logan Evans, Emerson Hancock now firmly in the major leagues, a couple other guys, Ryan Sloan is off to a great start in his minor league career.
Durangelo.
It would make sense to go pitching, back to back with what we got last year with Ryan Sloan and Durangelo Sencha. Do you have any college arms represented in your 3 faves?
Yeah, so I don't think Ethan's going to be there at 3, and so I just assume he's going to go 1 or 2. He's a star. You can market him right away, the way they did with Jackson Holliday. It just makes too much sense for both those teams to take him. At my number 2 spot, I have who I believe is the number 1 pitcher, and I believe ESPN in their mock draft that just came out, they have him as their ranked number 1, and that's Jamie Arnold. Jamie Arnold, you watch him throw 2 pitches, and you're like, oh, that's Chris Sale. That's a lot of Chris Sale. A
little smaller.
Tall, tall, lanky, left hand. That ball, that 3/4 like extension, it just snaps off there, and his off speed looks violent. His velocity is really good. He's been an absolute star for Florida State. Has been getting hit around a little bit more lately, but has excellent control, which definitely feels like right in that Mariners wheelhouse. Logan Gilbert, Brian Wu, George Kirby, these guys pound the strike zone. Jamie fits that bill. I also feel like Jamie has the highest ceiling and has the most quickest route to be in the majors soon. We'll get a chance to see Jamie this upcoming week. I believe is the start of the regionals. Florida State clinched one of the hosting bids, so they'll have the Tallahassee regional. College baseball, I love it. It's definitely a crapshoot once you get into that regionals, super regionals. But man, if we get a chance to watch him in the regionals, super regionals, or maybe even see him in Omaha, that would be awesome. And that's what you're going to see with the rest of my list. So if Seattle goes pitcher, I would rather go hitter personally if I ever get a shot to get someone in the top 3. But I understand everything we're hearing, all the whispers, is it sounds like pitcher, just when you look at our farm and where we're at, it makes sense to go pitcher at number 3 and someone that could help you next year potentially. So at number 3 is my last offensive player. Then I'll show you just who I think the Mariners will go, because I think Jamie Arnold's going to go 2 to the Angels. But then be Ivy Arquette out of Oregon State, best hitter in college baseball this year. Played at Washington. He's from Hawaii, played at Washington with Pac-12 honors. He's now with Oregon State. Oregon State's an independent. They've earned one of the top 8 seeds in the college baseball tournament. That's because of him. 6'5", 220, can play second, short, third base. Everything the Mariners are going to need in the next 2 or 3 years, he's another quick call-up guy. Hitting 348 this year, a 1.149 OPS. That's insane. He's got 14 doubles, 17 home runs in 54 games, 38 walks, and 42 strikeouts in 54 games. So I think the most MLB-ready hitter, and I would love to see him immediately this is going to be our third baseman. Ben Williamson, keep the ship afloat. Ben Williamson is coming. Colt Emerson will be the natural replacement for J.P. Crawford. That's kind of like my envision of what that could look like. I think there's a good chance if Arnold and Ethan Holiday are already gone and the Mariners are intent on going pitchers, my other two guys that I have that I think are in the realm is Liam Doyle, the left-hander out of Tennessee, who's had one of the best pitching seasons we have ever seen. Got lit up in the SEC tournament and ended up Tennessee's not in the college baseball tournament, which is kind of surprising after winning the title last year. But he had 15.4 Ks per 9 innings as a lefty.
Insane.
Can touch 99. He's 6'2", 220. He looks built and ready to go. And then the other guy is Cade Anderson out of LSU. A lefty, very thin, but just kind of has a lot of the stuff that MLB teams are looking for right now. I would be a little wary of taking him, but I believe that is who the Mariners were mocked at number 3, I believe, on ESPN. On the mock that we just saw that came out was Cade Anderson. Another fantastic season at LSU. He is in the college baseball tournament. So it's kind of cool. 3 of my top 5 guys, I know we're doing 3 for 3, but a lot of these guys we're going to possibly see on ESPN in the College World Series coming up.
Yeah, and it sure would be nice to add a left-hander to that mix. You know, obviously, and all that great young pitching they have.
And Jamie, Liam, and Cade are all lefties.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to back that up, MLB Pipeline right now has Holiday as the number 1 overall prospect. Seth Hernandez, the high school right-hander, at number 2, and then Cade Anderson 3, Jamie Arnold 4, Iva Arquette 6. And Liam Doyle at 9 in their rankings.
And that just shows again how amazing this class is at the top. Like any of these guys, if they stay healthy and they reach their realistic potential, you have an immediate impact player on a championship ball club. That's what all 5 of those guys will provide. It's just, as you know, lefties, lanky lefties, you just kind of worry sometimes about what their durability is going to be. And so I could definitely see them feeling more comfortable with Liam Doyle, but I would have a hard time passing on Jamie Arnold if he's there.
Meanwhile, down on the farm, the Mariners are killing it, as they say. Keith Law, as I mentioned earlier, came out with his midseason top 50. The Mariners are represented well in that top 50. They were represented in a lot of top 100s with as many as 7 prospects in most of the lists at the beginning of the season, but most of them were congregated in the lower part of the 50s, or the lower 50 of the top 100. Not so much with Keith Law's latest list, including 2 entries to the top 50 that weren't even in his preseason top 100. But to hear us talk about that and react to Keith Law's updated list, you're going to have to tune into the next episode of Mariners Forever, which you'll be able to catch if you subscribe to the YouTube channel right here. It's the best way to support this growing channel. Hit that like button if you would as well. And if you want to be notified of new content, hit that bell. Also follow Michael and I on Twitter and also on our Mariners Forever Twitter handle, Mariners_4 ever. Until next time, Michael, always good to see you. Forever and always, go Mariners.
Go Habs. Let's do it.